Good afternoon. As always, I'll start with a quick review of our last performance, although it seems like it was a long time ago now. Short weeks are great on the other side when you get the necessary W. Looking back at the game, I thought we made some progress in some really specific areas. Obviously, it was good to get off to a faster start. The first possession, we're not running away from our issues, we're running toward them. We talked about it during the course of the week. We decided and elected to take the football if we wanted to toss in an effort to go all in on that concept. So it's good to get some results in that area. But also I thought our running game was big. It was big because it minimized the running game of Henry. It minimized their time of possession and things of that nature, the things that they do in terms of how they construct victory. And so I thought it was doubly important. Obviously, for selfish or personal reasons, in terms of our possession of the football and management of possession downs and things of that nature, but specific to that matchup, an effective run game, I thought played keep away from a guy who's really good at taking the air out of stadiums and dominating games, particularly in the second half in the form of Derrick Henry. I thought we got the necessary plays when needed to the turnover. Wasn't a big turnover game, but they're really good at taking care of the football. We pride ourselves in taking care of the football, and so had a feeling going in that it wasn't going to be a bunch of turnovers, but the ones that did occur would be significant, and obviously we got a big one there at the end to close it out. Absorbed a little attrition in play. Mon Adams had an ankle injury. We'll follow him throughout the week in terms of his availability. Cole Holcomb obviously is out for the season with the knee injury. Some existing injuries. Mika is improving. We'll see what the week holds for him and see if there's a potential for availability at the latter part of the week. Some other bumps and bruises associated with play, but we got additional days, and so that's a good thing. It's great to have Cam back in action. He probably played a little bit more than I wanted him to, and so the additional days for him on the other side of that performance is big. We're just excited about teeing it up and getting our group back on the grass and getting singularly focused on this week's challenge. And so let me do that. The Green Bay Packers, man, they're coming off of a victory where they did some things in the manner in which I'm sure they would desire to. I really felt like Aaron Jones was at full capacity last week, and I just think he is so significant to their efforts. The two-back tandem of he and Dillon is a challenging one to deal with. They have differing styles and skill sets. They really challenge the defense. Jones is obviously good in all areas of play, inside, outside, and in the passing game. Dillon is a bruiser. His pile almost always falls forward. We were up there a couple years ago, and I thought they utilized that tandem against us very effectively. I thought Dillon really kind of took the air out of things at the end, and that pile was falling in the direction that they needed it to, and so it starts there for us. I think when they got those guys, I think it makes sledding much easier for their collective of talented other people, young people on offense, starting with their quarterback and quality young talented receivers that they have, and included in that is also their tight end who got his first score last week. I just see a group that's growing with each outing. That progress has probably been slowed some by some injuries, lack of availability at the receiver position, for example. Aaron Jones, as I mentioned, has missed a significant amount of time over the first half of the season. So last week was not surprising given that they had a full arsenal of talent. And so we expect them to look to build off of that. And so we're preparing with an edge with that understanding. They got talented receivers. Watson is a take the top off the coverage guy. Dobb is a combat catch guy. Really like their young slot out of Michigan State, and I thought he was the most complete interior or slot receiver in this past draft, and I think the trajectory of this play kind of illustrates that. Then on the defensive side, man, known Joe Barry a long time. They're really solid fundamentally, schematically. They're going to keep a lid on it. They've absorbed some attrition in the secondary. Douglas got traded. Savage is injured, but all the while they've done a really good job of keeping a lid on it. But again, as I said, I know Joe Barry. I know he's going to be really solid in those areas. They're going to communicate well. They're not going to be out of place. They got some quality people up front. Can't say enough about Gary and how he's breaking pockets down. Preston is a savvy veteran, never out of place, man, very aware. Their front works really well as a collective. Their games are excellent. Their movement is really challenging, not only pass game movement, but I'm talking about run game movement. They stunt a lot up front on run downs. It creates negativity and unblock people in the backfield from time to time. They get some splash plays in that way that kind of throw you off schedule. We got to do a really good job from an assignment standpoint to make sure that we try to minimize that. We can't have unblocked guys in our backfield due to movement. But as I said, there's a lot of it. Rich Bisaccia, their special teams coordinator, man, I've known Rich for 20 years, man. He's as good as there is in the business, man. Top-notch leader, organizer, preparer. They got dangerous return men, but he's always got a dangerous return game wherever he's been. That component of play has our attention. Obviously, week in and week out, we want it to be a winning edge. But given the challenge of this unit, man, we got to do a really good job to make sure it's also not a winning edge for them. And so those are some of the things that has our attention as we lean in on our preparation on a day like today on Tuesday and get ready for this week's challenge. I'll pause and open up for questions.
Mike, I'm curious what you saw from Broderick Jones on the tape, and will he continue to start right now?
You know, I thought he did some really good things. I thought we did some really good things, and so it's probably worthy of an extended look, considering he did those things and we did those things on a short week. And so I'm not going all the way in, but we'll probably take another look at it and see what it looks like this week.
What has to happen then this week? There's an or between him and Juice. What kind of things are you looking for before determining?
We'll determine that throughout the week. It means exactly what it says, or.
What makes him better suited for right than with him?
I don't know that he is better suited. He's the young guy, and oftentimes the young guy is the one that has to display versatility.
How's that process been different from Joey, where it's a little bit easier to work a corner in terms of getting the young guys some exposure?
Just because of packages and so forth, backup corners play more than backup offensive linemen, just like backup receivers play a lot by nature of their position and specialization and personnel groupings, particularly those that happen in situational ball. There's more opportunity for younger perimeter players to get on-field physical development, no question.
You mentioned he did some really good things Thursday. What stood out to you as the most paramount?
Who are you referring to?
Broderick, sorry.
I just thought he did a really good job in general. I thought he did a really nice job on the second level, for example.
Like you mentioned, the run game was big. Why was it big, and how do you kind of that going forward?
Well, hopefully it's just a product of routine work. There is no secret formula. We work continually, and we will continue. And hopefully that performance is just a snapshot of the progress made, and we continue.
Part of that formula seemed like it was a more balanced snap count between Najee and Jalen. Is that
No different. We just converted some third downs earlier, and so you were probably able to feel it more than games where we're not converting third downs early in play.
I think Steve Allison spoke to the importance of having that good game from the run game on a Thursday and have an extended look at the tape to see what you guys did right, the value of positive reinforcement. To that end, what was noticeable about what jumped off about what was done well?
I don't know that I review it any differently on the other side than I would on a regular cycle. So I'm Give me the question again.
That, what did you see that you liked the most about the execution? I mean, he talked about the mesh points, for instance, of the blocking game and the running backs getting the hole at exactly the right time. Why did that coalesce the way that it did?
You know, we're analyzing that week in and week out. So the additional time created no difference in that analysis. We did some things well, and the results are the results. And so we roll our sleeves up this week with similar intentions. It's really just as simple as that.
Mike, for a guy making a second start, you show a lot, I mean, you're showing a lot of faith in having Joey follow a receiver like Hopkins.
Yeah, but you know, it's good that Joey wants an assignment like that, but it has to be good for us. And there were a lot of things, you know, that you guys don't write about that made it advantageous for us. You know, a lot of their run game went away from D-Hop, and so Joey didn't have to worry about a lot of run game fits and dealing with Henry. All of their screens went away from him, and so he didn't have to worry about screen fits. And so there's a young guy with some natural coverage abilities and skills, and some other components of his game are growing and developing, and just by virtue of traveling with D-Hop, some of those other things got minimized. And so there's always a lot of depth to decisions, and oftentimes it's some other things that are equally as important as some obvious things in terms of decision making, particularly when it comes to matching people up.
Mike, what kind of positives did you see from Matt Canada on the sidelines, and is that going to continue in the future?
You know, we're willing to do whatever is required to continue to progress in all three phases. We make changes week in and week out. Obviously, because of his location, that was a more obvious change, but I thought it was good reviews. I thought it aided in communication. Coach to player is one thing, but the give and take and the face-to-face component, I thought could add a little value to our cause. The reviews were positive, and so we'll continue to work in that area. We'll probably continue to turn other things over in an effort to continue to improve. But again, we do things weekly. Some weeks you notice them, most weeks you don't.
Will he be down there on Sunday? Will he be
I'm sorry?
Will he be on the sideline on
Yes.
Sunday?
When did you make the decision to move him down to the side?
That's irrelevant.
What other things would you like to turn over then?
Why would I mention them? You know? Well, you guys are funny sometimes, man. There's a strategic advantage to holding your cards close to your vest, and I generally like to exercise that.
Mike, how was Cole playing for you, and what's the challenge you're trying to make up for his production?
He was playing really well. You know, it was somewhat of a luxury, man. We thought we had three really capable inside linebackers that we were dividing the labor up among two positions, among three capable guys, and that's a really good thing when you have an opportunity to do that. You really can specialize and allow guys week in and week out to do the things that they do best. They can remain fresher, and so it was a pleasure to have that collective talking about Cole and Elandon and Quan. Now we simply got two guys for two spots, and so it's more of a traditional rotation. Obviously, it could create more opportunity for a guy like Mark Robinson in his second year, but he's not going to get the type of, you know, involvement that Cole had. And so what we had was a luxury. What we have now is probably more of a traditional divisional labor at the inside linebacker position.
Mike, I think Pickens Neal in some of those passing down situations.
I'm sorry?
Could you use Keanu Neal in passing
We've
down?
been doing that anyway.
Mike, I think Pickett's quarterback rating 75 in the first three quarters. Is there something that's particularly not happening for him?
What is his rating in the fourth quarter?
It's like 108.
Well, just ask it from that perspective. He's awesome in the fourth quarter, man. He rises up in those moments. He wants to be the reason why we're successful. He prepares his tail off. In some instances where people run from challenges, he runs two challenges. And so that's why his performance is so good in the fourth. Those other quarters we'll work on.
Mike, with the injury to Minka Fitzpatrick, you had to make some changes in your secondary. How did you feel Pat P did in terms of playing a true safety? And then with Darius Rush, how has he done jumping on this moving train?
You know, Pat did what he always has done. His movement inside was very similar to his movement inside when Minka was there. It was really about a guy like D. Rush getting an opportunity and guys like KZ and Keanu Neal playing every down. And so, I like the work that those every down guys did. It was really good to get D. Rush in the fold and him to show that he was capable of executing assignments. It'd been nice for him to make that splash play at the end, but appreciative of his readiness and his display of capabilities. And now we get an opportunity to move forward, man. It's a growth opportunity. And really, that's something to be said when you deal with injury. There's some challenges in terms of dealing with injury. People get expanded roles, people have to grow up, et cetera. But on the other side of it, man, there's depth and growth. Deontay missed a significant block of time, for example. The growth in Calvin Austin over that time period is an example of that. And so it is a challenge to play without me, but I am excited about the growth opportunity and the expanded roles that others get to do and display in the midst of it.
Mike, Kenny talked about the impact George Pickens had just by drawing the double teams and what he opened up for the rest of the offense. How do you as a staff build upon that and see what defenses are doing to take it away?
That's just everyday business. When you got a dynamic guy, I think we even talked about it some here last week, that, he dictates oftentimes that it's 2-on-1 football. And so it's an 11-on-11 game. And so when he's getting that type of attention, a guy like Deontay is going to have an opportunity to have volume catches. You're going to have an opportunity to have a light box in your run game. He's going to have an opportunity to be effective, for example. And so, man, we appreciate his talents. We respect what people do to minimize his talents, but we function as a collective. And there's some benefits for our collective when people make the type of commitment that they made recently to try to minimize his impact on the game.
Has George expressed any frustrations to you over the course of the season?
Heck yeah, man. He expresses frustration all the time, man. He wants to be significant. He wants to be a reason why we're successful. Man, y'all don't begrudge that. I want guys who want the football. I want guys who want to be central reasons why we're successful. And so that's a non-issue, to be quite honest with you.
You have experience, though, dealing with players, young players specifically, kind of working through that adversity, those frustrations. How do you coach a young player like that?
Like breathing. It's easy. I know it's a cute story for you guys, but it is a pebble in my shoe, to be quite honest with you, in terms of the things that I have to do in an effort to keep this group ready to play this week. Our focus is on the Green Bay Packers and what we're all going to do in this football game. And I can't state it any plainer than that.
Mike, how do you
It's like
balance-
reality television, the way you guys follow social media and write stories about it.
Like, how do you balance what you said before about, hey, they're putting two guys on him, that's good for everyone else, but also acknowledging George is one of your best playmakers and trying to get him away from that at times. How do you go about, figuring out how often you want to try to do that?
It's really not that difficult, to be quite honest with you. Guys get moved around in the NFL. When Deontay was down, we moved him around quite a bit in an effort to get him free. And there are benefits from that. As I mentioned earlier when I was talking about growth associated with lack of player availability, we've moved him around significantly during that block of time when Deontay was unavailable. And we've found ways to get him the ball and be successful. And so there's a byproduct of that. That's probably a component of this discussion that you mentioned.
Mike, Chuk said after the game that he was benched in part because he was acting out late in the Jaguars game. How much was that a factor in moving Broderick into the starting
A
lineup?
significant factor.
Anyone else?
Mike, we've talked a lot about Broderick Jones and Joey Porter Jr., but what have you seen from Keanu Benton, especially recently here?
Growth every single week with every outing. And I thought last week was a significant step. He plays the run well, he plays the pass well. He's able to play both, you know what I mean, in mixed downs. He's growing and growing fast, and it's important because we need him to. But again, he probably, his process, his maturation process was probably accelerated by the additional reps that he got during the time that Cam Hayward was unavailable as well.
A lot has been made about the offense and Kenny Pickett in the fourth quarter.
but the defense has forced 6 of 16 turnovers, and they allow the fewest points per quarter. The fewest is in the fourth. What can you say about your defense's ability to step up in those big moments?
Absolutely nothing. I just want to keep the focus on the other side of the ball, and I want them to work in silence. That's the job. Keep the score down, particularly late in games in the significant moments, and to deliver the splash plays when needed. They're the older unit, and so that's expected.
Understanding what you said about Broderick, sometimes the young guy has to be the one that shows versatility. Dan at left tackle, has he shown in your eyes a significantly better level of play at left when he's been there than right, that is also playing into that?
He is significantly better at left than he is at right.
Anyone else?
Yeah, Mike, is, Quan Alexander, does he give you what you need to replace Cole Holcomb?
Yes, he does.
Like, in what ways?
As I mentioned, we had a luxury when we had all three, but we've got two really capable guys now who are going to act in more of a traditional fashion. And so we don't feel like anything's lost in that regard.
Anyone? All right.
Thanks, guys.